If you're ready to experience more peace and joy in your life, if you want to feel more comfortable in your own skin, and if you're ready to discover and expand on your energetic gifts and personal power, you're in the right place. So here's your host, Kelle Sparta.
Welcome back to Spirit Guides. I'm your host, Kelle Sparta, transformational shaman, spiritual business coach. I'm here as always on Wednesdays with my best friend in book ethic, Katherine Loranger. Loranger.
You got it.
I got it. Okay. All right.
Got it.
Spiritual business coach. This is our ongoing theme. And today we are going to talk about, we're doing part 2 of our holistic hiring process, which is it love at first sight? And so we're talking today about how do you know if you have the right person, right? You're going through the process. Last time we talked about how do you get ready to hire, and then now we're going to talk about how do you know that that you have the right person. And once you've got all these applications coming in, you're going through everything, you're interviewing, the whole thing, right? Now, if you got the one VA away from the onlinejobs.ph site from last week's podcast, then you'll get some advice from them on this, and they've got really great advice on that. We're going to talk about it today from an energetic perspective and from a values match perspective, right? So energetically, you're going to be able, if you are energetically aware, you will be able to feel the other person's energy through their emails and through the photo that they send you, because pretty much everybody's going to have a photo. They're going to have a resume or a website that they use as their resume, and you'll be able to take a look at their photo, and that'll give you a sense of their energy, right? Because if you're a high vibration person, if you're a high energy person, and the person on the other end of the screen is like, that's probably not going to be a good match for you. If their energy is very dense and very low, you're going to find that to be a challenge to be interacting with on a regular basis. So you want to make sure that the person's energy matches yours. If you're a very laid back person and they're hyper focused, super, that might work if you are only operating via email. Because, you can be as chill as you want around the email or the WhatsApp, and they can be very high active, whatever, because high detail people tend to be very high active, and you really want a high detail person for a virtual assistant position. So you want to be aware that that's who they are, and you don't want to be frustrating them, right? So this means that you need to spend some time every week knowing what you're going to give them. Now, if you're only working 5 days a week or 5 hours a week and they're doing rote tasks on a repeat basis, that's not going to require a lot of your time, because once you train them, they're going and doing it. I hired for 20 hours a week. It requires more of my time to make sure that they have enough stuff to do for 20 hours a week. And so, the difference between how much time you are assigning to them and how much of that is recurring is going to determine how much time you need to spend to be taking care of them, right?
We're going to talk about that in a future episode.
We will. So yeah, she's like, get back to topic. I could feel it. I
am that high detail person.
I could feel it. Yes. So, but you want to be in energetic alignment with the person. You want to make sure that they're on the same page values wise with your business. So you don't want somebody who's a hard sell person for a business that is a soft sell business.
Can I just jump in here just real quick? And so talking about energetic alignment, the alignment is with the vision of your business. It's the alignment with the business that you're creating. It may not be where the business is right now, but it's where it's going, right? Yes. So if you're like second guessing yourself and you have doubts about the value of yourself, blah, 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 like that is not the energetic alignment you want to hire someone for. You want to hire them for the business is a done deal, right? It's all worked out. This is what it looks like. That's who you're hiring for.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And you want to make sure you're hiring the right person for the right role, right? Mm-hmm. So, you don't want to hire somebody into a highly technical role who is a interpersonal person and doesn't have a lot of technical skills, right? And things like that. You also want to make sure that you're not trying to hire somebody to do something that you don't know how to do at a basic level, because you can't supervise somebody if you don't understand what they're doing. So, at the basic level, you need to have an understanding of what are the tasks and how long do those tasks take, right? Because otherwise you have no idea whether it should take 30 hours or 5 seconds to do a task because you've never done it. And so I'm a big believer in do what you need to hire for at least once so that you know the longest amount of time it should take to do the task and then be able to extrapolate.
I disagree with that.
You disagree with that.
Totally
I think it's important.
Yeah. And so in some areas, yes, absolutely. But in some areas, no, like you don't need to learn how to be the technical expert for every aspect of your business before you hire someone to do it, because you're going to get bogged down doing the stuff that A, is not your zone of genius, B, is going to take so much time to learn, and then you're going to do it once. What you need to do is learn how to supervise and track people and have clear expectations. So you can't abdicate everything, but you also, I strongly believe, you don't need to learn how to do every single thing. What you might need to learn how to do is to vet people, to do reference checks, to, kind of understand like what is the position description that I'm looking for. But I don't need to necessarily know how to do that. I just need to know how to find and supervise the right person.
So I agree with you in some areas of that. So, if you're going to hire somebody to do a complex computer integration of your site from one thing to another, you don't need to know how to do that. Just hire that, right? But if you're going to be supervising for a long period of time, somebody who's doing something for you over time, usually you're delegating them tasks that you're already doing. So you know how to do that, right? And like we have Mesh Apex, which is a version of Go High Level, right? And I just hired this guy in, and I hired the woman before him because they knew Mesh Apex, right? I know enough to get around inside of the system because we transitioned to it like 4 months ago or so, but I don't know everything about the system. I'm still learning the system myself. I don't know it in detail. So I hired somebody who was like, yes, I've worked within this system before. I know how to do it. And that was fine. And at the same time, I also know how to go into the system and see what they're doing and to be able to look at what that is, right? So you have to have some level of understanding. You don't have to know how to do it in detail, but you do have to have some level of understanding of your own systems, because God forbid somebody quits. What are you going to do if you don't know what they're doing, right? You need to know how things operate within your own business until you have enough redundancies in your business to be able to have somebody else who knows how to do that, right? And so this has been a process. And so this is another episode we should put on the books, is to, how do you deal with your systems, right? So the tech systems that you choose and things like that. And what do you have to think about? Because I got to tell you, switching from one tech system to another is a freaking nightmare. It takes months. Okay. But, hopefully when you're done, it makes sense and works better, but that's not always the case. So the upshot, though, is that you want to make sure that the person that you're hiring has fluency in what you're doing already, or you need to be prepared to set aside a lot of time to train them, which means you really need to know what you're doing in that system before you train them. You can't hire somebody who doesn't know the system and then expect them to figure it out. That is unfair, right? You need to, if you're going to hire somebody, you either need to hire somebody who already knows the systems, or you need to know the system and be able to train them in it. Right. So that's part of the thing there. And then you have to decide how much of your systems are relevant, because they're not going to know all of your systems because there's too many systems to know, but they need to know the primary systems, right? And they can learn the secondary systems, because nobody's going to be the unicorn who knows everything that you do, right?
And you might not have one person for all the systems. You might have different, right? Like that also helps to build in some redundancy, is if you have different people managing different things.
Yes, absolutely. And so this is part of the process, right? And understanding that that's the case. So when you are hiring somebody in and you're deciding whether or not you love them, you want to make sure that they are going to be a good fit in all of these different ways that we're talking about, and that you've thought through how you're hiring people and what you're doing. And energetically, you want to make sure that you're working with somebody who's in alignment with your business, right? Some people can come in and just do a job, and that's okay. I personally like to hire people who already have an interest in personal growth and spiritual evolution, because then when they come to work for me, they get a bonus of being able to access the classes. And that's an additional benefit to them that costs me nothing, right? But it also means that they're excited about it. So they go in and they learn the classes. And then when people ask questions, now they can answer them from an intelligent place because they've done this on their own time. And that's the deal, is that you can learn this stuff on your own time, right? So, this is something that is a benefit both to me and to them. And it also means that they're in alignment energetically with my customers, my clients, so that they can feel good to the people that they're talking to if they do customer service, right? Because my clients are all energetically aware. And so that's important to me. If you're running a business where people aren't energetically aware, then that's less important for you, right? So I think that's what I've got to say on this. Do you have something else that you want to share?
One of the, I don't know if it's like the best pieces of advice, but a really significant piece of advice was to hire slow and fire fast.
Yes.
So take your time with the hire. And that's why I recommend hiring sooner than you think you're going to need. Like, get that task list, figure out the high value jobs that you need to do, the low kind of dollar value ones that you can start to delegate, and hire someone in sooner rather than later, because you're going to grow as a supervisor and potentially a trainer and a boss and a CEO. And take your time with finding that person. So you're looking at skills and abilities, you're looking at experience, you're looking at references, you might be looking at work style, you might be looking at availability, you're looking at definitely the energetics, the values, all of those things, right? And depending on the type of task or position and length of term, right, those things are going to play different levels of importance. And so you might be hiring someone just for a project-based thing. In that case, it's probably going to be more of the technical expertise. It's going to be the kind of experience in doing that specific type of thing. Whereas if you're looking at hiring someone on as a longer term team member, the values are going to be much more important, the kind of fit, the communication style, like all of those things, right? So hire slow, take your time. And then if you find that they're not a fit, and we're going to talk about this in a future episode, we're going to talk about training, we're going to talk about supervision, we're going to talk about termination. But when like you've done the things to make sure that they're trained, you've given them, opportunities to remediate their work if they need to, but that they're not a fit, fire fast. So hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that also will bring up the how do you bring people on and technically
onboarding
and all that. That's the fifth one that we didn't have.
There
right?
we go. Yeah.
That you said there was going to be a fifth one last time.
Yeah. And we should probably, in that episode, we should talk about contracts too, like employment agreements and job descriptions and all that kind of stuff. Because I think about, and I've hired a lot of people, we've had like teams of up to 70 people at one point in time. And some of those people are longer term team members and some of them are just on for a project. So what you're looking for is going to be totally different based on those criteria.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, all of these things. And if you're starting to get overwhelmed, don't get overwhelmed. It's okay. Okay. And and the contract, I will tell you that I took the online jobs, the One VOA course, and they gave you basically everything you needed to put into the contract. And I sat and I just wrote it all out, and that's what I used, and it was great, right? Amazing. So, and it was a lot of things I didn't think about that they covered, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Always learning.
Always learning, right? And I've been doing this forever, and I've had multiple virtual assistants, some in the Philippines, some local, some in the US. I've had a lot of different virtual assistants over the years, and this was something that I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Oh, I didn't think about that, right? So because I'm hiring somebody long term, and I'm thinking about them more from an employee perspective, even though they're a contractor, I'm thinking about them from that perspective, right? And so that sort of thing. So all of these things are things to consider. And so when you are looking at this, we're going to have to cover a whole bunch of stuff for you. We will absolutely do that in another episode. And so stay tuned and make sure you tune back in for the next episode in the Holistic Hiring series. And with that, I'm going to close our episode for today. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And remember that what you focus on is what expands, and what you intend is what you create. So choose wisely.
So that's it for today's episode of Spirit Guides Podcast. Head on over to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. Every week, one lucky listener who subscribes and posts a review on iTunes will be entered into a drawing for a $10,000 value grand prize and a private reading with Kelle Sparta herself. Be sure to head on over to spiritguidespodcast.com and pick up a free copy of Kelle's gift and join us on the next episode.